Okay, today's video, we're going to talk about Shopify conversion tracking apps. Why you don't want to use a cheap tracking app for tracking your conversions through and on Google Ads, Facebook ads, Google Analytics, Microsoft/Bing ads, and the like. Okay? Seen any of my videos before on this channel, I harp all the freaking time on how important conversion tracking is to your overall results and how much money you can make on these ad platforms, because the ad platforms I just mentioned are all algorithmically driven now, and what decides how much money you make is predicated on how much data you've accumulated in your account in the past, because the algorithms are going to find out what worked and what didn't work to get you more and more profit on an ongoing basis. And when you have third-rate data flowing in your ad account on a regular basis, you're only going to make so much. It's really as simple as that. The better quality data you get, meaning the closer to an actual profit or how much profit you're making, the tracking represents, the better off you'll do, the more money you'll make. And the more of the data you capture, the more money you're going to be able to make as well. The most data possible that is not missing conversions at all, and data that represents profit instead of just leads or something else further down the line, which actually can be done. I don't care what you're doing. Even if you think you're only tracking phone calls, you can track it, how much profit your ads are making through those phone calls. Trust me, it's done through offline conversion tracking. I talk about that all the time on this channel, and you can search for it on my channel homepage along with that. But with that said, when we're talking about Shopify, we're typically, for most of you guys, we're going to be talking about cart purchase tracking itself. Even though if you take orders to the phone, you should track those separately, like I just mentioned, through offline conversion tracking. Add that to your cart purchase tracking data because you're going to make way more money doing that. But with your Shopify conversion tracking, there's a couple different ways you can set up your cart purchase tracking in your site in order to get the job done. I'm going to go through the pros and cons of each. And then more importantly than that, since a good chunk of you guys are going to be trying to use a separate app inside Shopify to actually place the tracking code so that the tracking gets done like you want it to, then you should know these key things I'm going to share with you on this video, because I made the mistake. And then with that, you do not have to make the same mistake for yourself. Have your tracking break. And, because ultimately it may not seem like a big deal today, but if you build up your account over time like you're supposed to, you eventually start making big money. If your tracking lapses, you could actually easily lose tens of thousands of dollars from your tracking being broken for a while because you did not take my advice now to get things set up the right way now with the right foundation for yourself. Of course, this also will apply to other tracking. So if you're tracking phone calls, form fills, that kind of thing, and you need your tracking code placed on the site, these tracking apps are going to be able to help you do it as well to some degree, if you will. So with that said, I'm going to go through what I was going to mention here. But before I certainly do, if you do not know who I am yet, I am Corey Zyman, owner of Guaranteed PPC, an online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing results for their clients. That is, we do not charge our clients management fees up front until we can get them a certain minimum lift in their ad profitability up front, in excess of the management fees that we charge. We are the only agency out there that does anything like this, which should tell you something about the quality of the information you're receiving on this channel. So with that said, getting into the content here. So your two options for tracking on Shopify are basically as such. You can A, place your tracking code on your website and through the code manually. So you go into the theme templates, you add your tracking code this way. You can track and add tracking code to your site this way specifically. Or you can use a tracking app. You add an application that's meant to house the tracking code that you have, and that app is going to make sure it gets on all the pages of the site, all the checkout pages, checkout success page, any pages that are on the site in general. And these apps are designed by people who have went through all the trial and error to understand how to actually really get it on all the pages, regardless of how you configure Shopify, right? And also deal with all of Shopify's changes along with it, because Shopify is always updating and they're abreast of it itself. They're experts in putting tracking code onto a website per se, when you are not. So you can use a tracking app, by the way, on Shopify to add Google Ads tracking code, by the way. You can do it for Bing/Microsoft tracking. You can add Bing/Microsoft tracking code via these apps, Facebook tracking code via these apps, Google Analytics tracking code via these apps. And they're typically done with tracking apps that are standalone, and which is what I would recommend, by the way. So if you're going to track Google Ads, In Bing ads, you're going to want 2 different standalone apps because each app is going to be so much better at what it's supposed to do for each individual one that it's going to give you more reliability in the long run. And as I mentioned before, when all your ads are running well based upon the tracking data that you've accumulated in your account, and then your tracking breaks, and you have smart bidding on your campaigns that are set up to get to produce a certain ROI, your campaigns are going to go back into learning mode because it's going to freak out when it doesn't see any conversion tracking data anymore. And then even when the tracking's fixed, it's going to take a few days for the system to realize it again. And you're going to be out a ton of money. Probably you're going to lose half your sales you normally get for a whole week once it happens. And that is even understanding if you catch it after a couple days already. If not, it could be way, way worse than that. With that said, any increase in reliability of your tracking is only going to help you out in the long run, because you can take it from me. I've managed hundreds of accounts before, set up the tracking for hundreds of accounts to go along with it, because we always set up tracking for clients because they normally don't have it set up right. Most people don't. And most people they try to hire when you tell them to do it don't know what they're doing, and they suck at it. And it gets screwed up, and we can't get results with ads, like I mentioned, without the right tracking. So we just have to do it because we want to, what my point I was trying to make was, it's not a matter of if your tracking will break at some point, it's just a matter of when. If you're going to be in business for the next 10 years, your tracking's going to break at some point. It always does, happens with the tracking. Even if you don't think you make a single change to your setup, it's going to break at some point. Or you could be having it break 8 times over the next 10 years based upon you having a non-robust, faulty, crappy setup to track your conversions and place your tracking code on your site to boot. So tracking apps are the one I choose to put tracking code on the site, because the tracking app companies that actually are the ones that make the tracking app, because of course there's third parties who manage the tracking app, and those companies are specialists in how Shopify works and how adding code to Shopify works. Because they're constantly keeping up on the changes Shopify is making, I don't have to. And I know because I use the app, even though it might be costing me some money, if Shopify makes a change, they're going to update and roll with the change for us without even having to think about it. Otherwise, you're going to have to constantly monitor your tracking, which you should do anyway. Monitor your tracking and hope that you are not going to have Shopify make a change when you're on vacation or something like that, and then your tracking broken for a period of time and hitting you at the least convenient time, or during your busy season where you're really expecting all your sales to come in, maybe during Black Friday, that kind of thing. Anyway, it's basically like having a little bit extra insurance that your tracking is going to stay working, even with Shopify doing all the updates they do, because they're going to stay on top of it, and you don't have to keep reading every email from Shopify as to maybe some of the changes they're making, what are the ramifications of those changes on your tracking and placement of tracking code and accessibility and firing of tracking code on your web page, on your Shopify site. So with that said, now that you know, you should probably use a tracking app and a specialized one for the different platforms that you're talking about that you want. And normally it's going to be whatever ad platform you're running plus Google Analytics. If you, by the way, want to know the best one for each one of these, just leave me a comment below. I'll get back to you and let you know which ones we're using for our client sites at the current time that are the most reliable and I would use as well. You can always, by the way, ask me any question that you'd like, any ad-related question, any business-related question for that matter. I always get back to everybody who leaves me a comment on this channel, usually within 24 hours time. But as far as these tracking apps go, if you're not going to just simply go with the one that we use here, which I'm not ever claiming we always have the best only way of doing things, what we do works and it's a good option. There's always likely better options because we've never tested everything. We can't. We have limited resources, but it's a good option to go with at the very least. If you want to go out on your own and pick your own, or maybe you've already installed one on your site and you want to know if that was the right move or not, you want the one that you can find that works for your store to prevent any tracking outages. Are mainly going to do that is you're going to find the one with the best reviews, which a lot of them unfortunately there's not very many with that many reviews. If you're looking for an app that has hundreds of reviews, you're probably not going to find one. That said, there's not a direct correlation between number of reviews and the quality of robustness or reliability of that tracking app plugin. We've tried ones with 30 reviews that didn't work, even after following all the instructions and talking to support and all that, the app support, that is, and it still didn't work. Whereas some with 4 reviews work beautifully without having to talk to support, and they just work right away. So that's not everything. It's just a nice to have. The one thing I would tell you most of all is that you want to get a paid plugin at the very least. Don't screw around with any free ones. And a lot of times, don't screw around and get the free option, get the paid option, because you'll be looked at a little bit more carefully by the app company. I don't have proof of that, but it makes sense. And if you ever have a problem with the app, like I said, when the tracking goes down, you're on the clock. The longer that goes down, the more likely your campaigns are going to go back into learning mode, and the longer it's going to take for you to get your sales back on track, because at the very least, when they go back into learning mode, the longer it's off, the more your sales are going to go down and the longer it's going to take to recover. The less time your tracking's down, the less you're going to lose, both in terms of the severity of how much you actually go into learning mode again, and of course, how long it takes for the campaign to get stable data like you had before and just run normally in general. So the goal always is, what can we do to set up tracking in which if it goes down, we'll know it. And then secondly, if it goes down, how can we get up as quickly as possible again? And one of the ways you do it is you get a paid plugin. And when it's down, you are able to right away through live chat support, get with the plugin support, the app support, and ask them what's going on in real time. And if the ones that charge like $20 a month or 10 or $20 a month, generally speaking, when things are going down, you can get on with the live chat right within Shopify with the app company. And if it's not able to be fixed right away, you can actually ask them for a Zoom link, and you can actually get on a video call with the support person, and then they'll also bring on the developer or a developer, and they'll actually work through it in real time for or with you, to the point where they'll figure out the issue. Maybe Shopify made an update and they just themselves aren't abreast of it yet, which, like I said, it's kind of like, that's a self-defeating thing, because like I said, you're expecting them to be abreast of it so that you don't go down, so you don't have to worry about it, and they are. But even then, Shopify sometimes glitches out. They aren't aware of any change that happens, and they have to wait for it to hit the fan themselves to be able to fix it. But at least you get a support person on the video call with you, working through it in real time. That is the most ideal situation for you. So yes, it's going to cost you an extra $10, $20 a month forever, and that's going to add up, and it's going to cost you $1,000 over time. But don't be cheap about it. It's just like saying, oh, I don't need car insurance, till you hit somebody, then you're right. Like, as it though comes to web marketing stuff, people love complaining about how much marketing apps cost in terms of tracking. All the time. I mean, feel bad for talking crap about what our clients do in the past, but because they don't know what we know. But they don't like things like CallRail. It costs money. It costs $50 a month, and then you tell them, you want CallRail because you're going to track the extra 20% of sales revenue you have coming through your account, because you're tracking the phone sales you're getting, and that's going to get you an extra 50% more profit from your ads long term. It just doesn't get into their head. All they see is the $50, and all they know, maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't, but I know if I do this, the $50 is gone guaranteed. Which is where you have to find somebody who actually knows what they're doing and you can trust to guide you through this stuff, because if you don't trust your person, you just got the wrong person, frankly. But as it comes to tracking, you don't want to cheap out. Learn the hard way, like most people seem they have to, which is wait for there to break and then scramble to try to fix it. Or you could take my advice now and get the best tracking setup possible and sleep well. Or at least when your tracking breaks, know that it's not going to be, you've already got a really good backup plan, and you have an execution plan, which you should literally have a plan that if the tracking breaks, here's what you're going to do in advance, because it's not a matter of if it's going to break, it's when. And you should also have somebody checking your tracking on a regular basis, not just waiting for it to break, and then your sales are affected, and then you're trying to figure out why your sales are affected, and then you eventually find out it's the tracking 10 days later, and then it takes you another 10 days to fix it, because you're going to get handed to you if that's what you're trying to do. Most people make that mistake once, and they're trying not to make it again after that. You don't have to make it at all if you just take my advice here. It's similar to site security. Everybody thinks their site's not going to get hacked until it gets hacked. If you don't have any security plan for your website, it's just a matter of time before it gets hacked if you're an actively growing company. Then they get hacked, then they deal with it. Well, this tracking is the same way. With that said, anyway, that tells you what you want basically for these apps. You want one paid plan so you can get on with the support in real time if you need to, and one with the not 0 reviews, but at least a decent amount of reviews. You read the testimonials or reviews. They look like real reviews. They don't look like they're made by the app company. And then you should be pretty good. And that's going to be the most ideal situation for tracking through Shopify. And then ideally with that, you're going to set up tracking through Google Analytics. If you're talking about running ads on Google Ads, importing the conversion goals you set up through Google Analytics to Google Ads to serve as a backup goal, marking those goals secondary. So you have a primary and a secondary goal for every goal that you're tracking: cart purchases, phone calls, form fills, and so that you can see at any given time when you tell your, like, because you took my advice here and you have somebody checking your conversion tracking and the data about which goals are triggering what conversions in the conversion menu of your account every couple days, they can see, okay, the backup goal and the primary goal shows about the same conversions. It's working. And then every couple days, they got to check it for 3 minutes and they're done. And that will prevent you so that when it breaks and it taking forever to find out what's going on, you find out after 2 days, you can get it fixed. You take your execution plan to get it fixed. You got a guy ready to go to fix it. Boom, put that in place. It's only broken for 3-4 days and you're done. If you want to know more about this, like I said, you can watch my other videos on this channel about how to have the best robust tracking system possible, what to track, how to track it, how to get the most out of your tracking. It's, tracking should be 30% of your overall ad strategy in terms of what you're thinking about, what you're doing. So with that said, and the information comes from somebody who spends 40 hours a week doing ad strategy. So I know as good as anybody what you need to pay attention to. With that said, if you're serious about making money with ads, then you want to subscribe to this channel because I'm actively coming out with stuff you need to know in order to stay abreast of these changes. So subscribe if you haven't already. Furthermore, you should check out my blog on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog. My blog has my strategies that we're using to guarantee results for clients at our firm with the step-by-step instructions, with the screenshots. If you like what you're seeing on this channel, learning from it, and more importantly, making money from it, you should definitely check that blog out as well. Beyond that, I just wanted to also mention that if you're stuck, think you're having an issue with something that's you're not quite sure, in other words, why you're not able to grow revenue anymore, or just can't in general, you don't know if you're not even thinking there's an issue, but you want to grow your top line revenue and profit, reach out to me for a 30-minute coaching session. I can go over everything you're doing in terms of your website, your pricing strategy, your ad strategy, your landing page strategy, all of it, and tell you what the bottleneck is in your business. I can do this confidently because I've done this hundreds of times over the last decade plus working with small business owners, because that's the other half of my job other than doing ad strategy is working with the small business owner to find out what the roadblocks are to get the ads working. A lot of you guys, I started doing this because a lot of you guys, you're trying to get your ads to work, but really it's an issue with your landing page or your tracking or something else that's causing the issue. So that will be highly valuable to you. I promise you, if you reach out for that coaching session, 90% of the time, I can figure out what the bottleneck is within that 30-minute session already. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out to me at my agency for that. And then, of course, if you want to hire somebody to get you results on your ads, we can do all the work for you along with it. We offer PPC services like other agencies do, but we offer a guarantee with our services. We also sell ad templates. If you want to reach out to us and find out if we can sell you the winning ad template, landing page template, campaign template that works for your niche market, we also sell those as well. And in which you can buy from us the templates that get a known result, which we can tell you up front what it gets. You copy paste that into your account, you get the same results we were getting in a different city or different country than you, and what you stand to gain using it in your own market. If you like managing your own ads, that's the easiest way to get results outside of using an agency. We've worked in over 100 different niche markets, so the chances are high we've already got the results you're looking for in your market already. So you should at least reach out to us and find out what results we got in your niche market, and therefore what you could stand to gain by using it. And of course, the price. So with all that said, you should always set up tracking on Google Analytics and Google Ads if you're using Google Ads, or Google Analytics and Bing, so you have backup tracking sources of information. On Bing, you may not be able to import goals from Google Analytics to Bing, but you can at least compare your Bing Ads conversion data to your Google Analytics conversion data for the traffic source Bing and see if anything's broken at any given time. And you should use tracking apps to do it if you're running Shopify. With that said, I'm going to wrap it up with that. Thank you very much for watching as usual, and I'll see you on the next one.
Remember when I said Shopify conversion tracking was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.